Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner into a Cardfight deck profile. And in this video I'm doing one last deck for the end of G. It's one I've talked about a couple times now, and that is going to be Pale Moon Harri, aka the Dead Moon Circus is here. So, yeah. Much like Night Rose, this is a deck that got a promo card that really helped how it plays out. And much like Night Rose, this honestly should have been released with set 13. We got it, I feel, a bit too late with 14. However, this is still a pretty good rogue deck, as this stride in general is absurdly strong, and it allows this deck to smack around quite a few other decks, if truth be told. And you do have a really good chance of killing your opponent by your second stride with this guy, and if you happen to own it, Dust is just an obscene card. Like, I feel like any Dark Zone clan in general needs to be respected just because Dust exists. Much like how you gotta still keep Stargate clans in the back of your mind. But in any case, basically what's changed between like before is like this card allows you to get multiple attacks off in battle phase, and it also gives your board power, which is enough to make this deck arguably stronger than Night Rose, because Night Rose has really good units, and that's always been what kept it better than Harri. Was like Harri had the easier way to call out things, but Night Rose had the better cards to call out. Now you're calling out okay cards that get significantly bigger than what Night Rose units are capable of calling out, and as a result, this deck can usually kill by its second stride, hopefully. So with that being said, let's dive right into this thing. So for the Forerunner, we're running Happiness Collector. Collector's skill is when your other unit is placed on rearguard from Soul, you can put her into the Soul in order to draw a card and Soul Charge 1. The reason why this is being played over the Cat is that your main grade 3 Soul Blasts for cost, and you don't really want to be Soul Blasting your combo pieces. This helps you get more cards in the Soul. It helps you accelerate your Soul because you need certain cards in order to perform your ideal combo on second stride. And building up cards in hand is always a good thing to have. You have means of proccing this multiple times in a turn now, thanks to the new stride. And as a result, I just feel like this is the superior starter. You can tech in a copy of the Cat if you want. I didn't really like it from the time I was playing with it. Then 4 copies of your main card, Masquerade Master Harri. Masquerade Phantom Harri, my bad. Masquerade Master is the stride. So Masquerade Phantom skills are, first, when it's placed on Vanguard, you can look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You choose a card from among them, put them to the Soul, and you bot deck the rest. So it helps build up Soul. Then, on stride, Soul Blast 1, choose a unit with Magia from your Soul, call it to rearguard, and at the turn it goes into the Soul. And then Generation Break 2, when your unit is placed into your Soul from your rearguard, you may pay cost of Carnival 1. And if you do, you choose a grade from your Soul and add to your hand. You don't really use the last skill that often because this deck is very Counterblast heavy. However, if you do have the Counterblast and it looks like you could do something like Dust, or you don't have a means to stride or need something to discard for Perfect Guard fodder, then this guy gets you there. So it's just a nice optional ability to have. But yeah, this is your main grade 3. It allows you to build a board. It doesn't cost Counterblast, which is very important. And it's got Magia, plus its SP looks really sick. Then for the backup grade 3, I'm running 2 copies of the original Harri. His GB2 is irrelevant, don't bother. And then the other skill is on stride, Counterblast 1, Soul Charge 1, choose a card from Soul, call it to rearguard, and gets +5, and then the turn it goes back into Soul. The counterblasting is the real issue here, is you really want to have as much of that open as possible for your main combo. That being said though, once Premium Standard becomes a thing, these will get dropped for our either it's going to be Golden Beast Tamer. I'm assuming Luke here is going to be in that set, but probably Golden Beast Tamer. Then for the grade 2s, 4 copies of your main card, Flying Periton, who GB1 on placement, Soul Charge 1, and then choose up to 1 card from your Soul and call it to rearguard behind this guy, or in the same column as this guy. I think it's grade 1 or less, or is it any card? Yeah, put it in the same, let's see. No, it's just any card. Okay, so that's kind of relevant. So basically, this guy builds a column for free. It also accelerates your Soul, and he will be the main focus of your combos because you want to be able to call this guy out as many times as possible in battle phase to get full column attacks. Then for the other grade 2s, it's a really odd assortment, but hear me out. So first thing, 2 copies of Intensely Spicy Clown. Spicy Clown is your Broken Heart clone, so whenever something is placed on rearguard from Soul, he and the Vanguard get power plus 2,000. It's useful for building up one big column swing during like your multi-attack turns, for instance, sometimes, but the main reason for calling this guy is you want to have a copy out on rearguard in the back row so that if your opponent's playing a deck that multi-attacks or hits certain numbers, you can use a couple of your defensive cards in order to build a board on your opponent's turn and give your Vanguard +6 or maybe even +8 or 9, +10 on their turn. I've actually gotten Harri up to 21,000 against an opponent's Angel Feather deck, and I was able to live because I was able to just barely guard his shit. But yeah, if you aren't going up against decks that like multi-attack a bunch or where Intensely Spicy Clown isn't as needed, you can cut these out for other cards. Some Harri lists I've seen actually run 4 copies of Dancing Princess of the Night Sky. I'm not, because this card's kind of pricey, and I'm pretty certain it's going to get a V-Series retrain when set 2 rolls around. But this card is good. It's an old card, and as such, you can tell by the AK base, but when you place it on Vanguard or Rearguard, you can count up as 1 to search for any Pale Moon in your deck and put it in Soul. So it just helps correct your Soul, get necessary combo pieces in, and it's just an overall decent card. Then 2 copies of Misdirection. Misdirection's skill is when your other unit is placed on Rearguard from Soul and you have a Pale Moon Vanguard. Oh no, it's not like I don't have those. You may have this card come out from Soul to Rearguard, and at the end of the turn, it goes back into Soul. Now, what's really neat about this is that it's not restricted to once per turn or during your turn only. So if you're able to somehow call a card out on your opponent's turn, like say a Periton, then this thing can come out and be an emergency interceptor. The other neat thing in what makes Happiness Collector so much better now than before is that if you say call Periton out and then have Periton call out Happiness Collector, this thing can then come out, which will then trigger Happiness Collector, allowing you to draw a card and then Soul Charge 1, which is useful if you say happen to have boosters you want to call behind Periton. Then you can just do this play, slap your 2 boosters down, you're good to go. But you can also do this during your opponent's turn, so that you can have a 10k shield if need be, but more importantly, draw a card off of your G Guardian or your Perfect Guard, which is pretty useful. Another nice little bonus to Misdirection that's actually going to make her better as time goes on is that since she comes out anywhere, you can actually put her in your Accel circles once we get to that point, and then this thing will be swinging for 18,000, which is just enough to hit Force Vanguards to the point where they need to drop a crit or a front or a heal in order to block it, because they can't use their 5k intercepts on this or such. And then rounding it out, 1 copy of Face Magician Lapin. So skill is card +1 once per turn. You have a Harri Vanguard. You can choose a unit from your Soul and call a grade 1 card from your Soul, call it to Rearguard, and at the end of the turn, it goes back in. It's a thing. I don't really use the GB2 skill that often because I want to save my Counterblast for more things, but the other thing is, when it attacks and I have a Harri Vanguard, I can Soul Charge 1 to have it gain 2,000 power. But if I Soul Charge a Magi unit, then it also gains a 3,000 on top of that. So this thing is swinging for 11 normally, but if you Soul Charge a Magi, then it also gets to swing for 14. It's got the Magi ability itself, so you can call out with Harri. But that Soul Charge and gain power thing is not GB restricted, so it's something you can call out early game. Admittedly, you could run Darkside Princess if you want to, but I like the fact that this card is Maga, and so is this card. So this is Red Star Dual Horn, and its skill is, when it's placed on Rearguard from Soul, it gets power plus 2,000. Also, if it, let's see, Soul Blast 1, when this unit is placed on Rearguard from your Soul by the effect of your Maga ability, you may pay the cost. If you do, you choose a card from your Soul, call it to Rearguard in the same column. And it's a flying Periton, except this one costs Soul Blasting, but it's a 5th Periton, and I like having that option. But if you don't want to run these, you can cut them out for like other anti-options, like Pakor for the Link Joker matchup, or Hanali for multi-attack matchups. Then for the grade 1s, 4 copies of Happiness Lovely Companion. So Lovely Companion is your Magia Perfect Guard, or your good one, as its skill is Generation Break 2, Soul Blast 1, when it's retired from Guard Circle, or is it when it's placed on Guard Circle? When it's retired from Guard Circle and you have a Harri Vanguard, you can choose a grade 2 unit from your Soul and call it to Rearguard. That grade 2 will most likely be Periton, who then calls Happiness Collector, who then will trigger Misdirection, which will trigger Happiness Collection. Hey, look at that! Your Perfect Guard allows you to call out 2 intercepts and draw a card. Or you just leave the thing on the board and you leave your 3 cards on the board, and suddenly that Ziegenberg went from having to discard no cards to restand to having to discard 3 cards to restand. Nice snag 3 you just went. And then 1 copy of your normal Pale Moon Perfect Guard. This is the one that can be used on anything, and it doesn't matter how it's placed. Companion has to be placed on guard circle from hand to be able to Perfect Guard, but her call aboard thing doesn't matter. But the important reason when you're playing this guy is, much like with Grand Blue, I just like having the option to call out a Perfect Guard that allows me to trigger its skill when it's placed on guard circle from Soul, which we do have cards that do that, thus allowing you to get around cards like Dragstar or Luard. Then 4 copies of your Stride Fodder, 4 copies of Purple Trapezist, whose skill, as we all know, is when it's placed on rear guard, you choose a Pale Moon, put it in the Soul, and then call a Pale Moon other than Trapezist out from Soul. Yeah, it allows you to correct your board, and the important thing is that because you can call this out in battle phase, you can just suck up your front row attackers that are at rest and swap them out with new attackers, and thus you are able to basically, for the cost of just calling out 2 of these things, you get a full board, which is pretty nice. And then 4 copies of Betty. This is your Negrabone clone for the deck, so when it's boosting and you have a Harri Vanguard, you can come as one, choose at the end of the battle this unit boosted, put the thing that it boosted into the Soul, and then choose a Magi unit and call it to rear guard. So these 2 plus Periton form the basis of your main combos, where you basically want to have multiple of these in Soul, if anything. Like, so, for instance, yeah, let's do it like this. So, suppose this is in your Soul. So, you swing with this, end of turn, count as 1, throw this into the Soul, call, skill, Soul Charge, call, skill, put this into the Soul, and then you would call out, I think you would call out another you call out another Periton or Red Star Dual Horn, and let's just get him out here. Then you call this, skill, Soul Charge, call, and then you just do it again. Alright, call, skill, call another one of these out, skill, swap, and you have another one of these. It requires a bit of setup, but if you can get that kind of Soul setup on your second Stride Masquerade Master Harri, your opponent should be dead, because those attacks will be coming at your opponent with a decent amount of power with them too. But yeah, that's it for the non-triggers. As for the triggers, we're running 8 stands, even though they kind of conflict with your main Stride, who basically calls a full standing board after its attack. But the thing is, these stands have really good effects. This guy here goes into the Soul to countercharge 1, which is very important because this deck has an axe countercharging engine. And this stand here, when it's placed on, when you put it into the Soul, I believe it has to be by an effect. I mean, there's no other way you're going to put it into your Soul. Yeah, when its card is put into your Soul, you can choose. You can take this card from your Soul at GB1, shuffle it into your deck. No, that's not how it actually works. Hang on, let's be like legitimate here. So, when this card is placed in your Soul at GB1, you can put this card on top of your deck, and then you can choose. You look for your deck for any card you want, put it into the Soul, and you shuffle your deck. So, when you randomly Soul Charge this or put into the Soul by the effect of your Harri or your Trapezist cards, you can swap it out for anything from the deck, and it just helps you correct your Soul. Like, being able to tutor your Soul and have it set up for that combo I was talking about is kind of a win con for this deck. Then 3 of the Silverthorn crit, just like the Link Joker 1 crit and like the Mega Colony other crit. It doesn't matter if you don't have a Luke here, Chaos, or whatever Vanguard. The important thing is it's a crit that shuffles itself back into the deck, and then if it whiffs, it whiffs. It gets it back into the deck. However, I am playing the 1 copy of the Harri crit, as if you randomly Soul Charge it or draw it, you can always just throw it into the Soul, get a draw, and then during some of your plays, you can just call it out, and then attacks, put it in the Soul. It's a thing. And then 4 copies of the Fighter Selection Heal, because Pale Moon's effect heal isn't out yet, and even then I'm not sure if I would run it in Premium Standard. So this guy is the type where if you discard it for your specific G-Guard, you can take it from your drop zone opponent to the Soul instead. And that's it for the main deck. As for the G-Zone, it really is just like 4/5 Stride the show, because you're probably going to be winning or losing by after you've gone through your second one of these things. Sometimes games will go past this. If you do have fail-safe Strides, but this is the guy you want to be trying to kill your opponent with. So Masquerade Master Harri's skill is, on attack, counterblast 1, Persona Flip, choose 2 of your circles other than Vanguard, put the cards in the soul curls into the soul, and if you do, choose up to 3 cards in your soul, call them rearguard, and at the end of the turn, they go back into the soul. Yes, this guy gets around lock, which was what made this card really good in Japan's set 13 in Rondo format. Did this come out before set 13 over there? I think this did come out just before Ultimate Stride in Japan, and as a result, you had like a decent like counter chaos pick during Rondo format. I know this was seen played during Stargate format as well to some extent, but set 14 ultimately pushed this out. But this card's good though, and it gets better because in addition to being able to call 3, he also as a continuous skill, gives all of your Magia rearguards plus 3,000 power for every Harri card that's face up in your G-Zone. And spoiler alert, we have another card. So, on first stride, you'll be buffing your Flying Peritons by plus 3. On second stride, you'll be buffing them by plus 9, or maybe even plus 12 if you somehow flip this up beforehand. Like, your second stride, one of these should hopefully be what kills your opponent. If you aren't going to this as second stride, your opponent probably managed to cheese out and maybe heal themselves down to 2 after your first stride, in which case you'll want to go into some of these other strides. And they are Dragon Masquerade, Harri, who is from GZ 5 and is honestly not spectacular. Skill is on attack, Generation Break 3, Counterblast 2, choose one of your units, put into the soul. If you do this on Vanguard attack, you may pay cost. If you do, choose up to 3 cards from your soul, call in rearguard, and after this, if you have 5 cards on the board, your opponent chooses 2 of their units, rearguards, and puts them into the soul. And then in the turn, you put the cards you put in the soul onto the field back into the soul. So, yeah. This is obviously a more power crept version of this, but it's something you can go into second stride if you feel like this isn't going to get them. Doing so allows you to put a Harri up. Personally, though, I prefer going to something like Prana, whose skill is kind of a one, flip anything. And then you choose units with the Mag ability in your soul for every face-up card in your G-Zone, call in the rear guard, and end of the turn, they go back in the soul. If you happen to flip a Prana up, though, you can potentially just keep on board instead. But, spoiler alert, I'm not playing another Prana, so it's just... yeah, it allows you to split up board, and more importantly, it flips up a Harri so that your second stride Masquerade, your next Masquerade Master Harri will be that much bigger. Likewise, I'm running 2 copies of Mephisto, whose skill is just act, flip anything, and then for every 2 face-up cards in your G-Zone with the Magi ability, you get to choose a card from your soul, call it to rearguard, and they get power plus 5,000 until end of turn, and at the end of turn, they go back into the soul. In addition to this, this guy also gives all of your units plus 1,000 power for every Mephisto that's a face-up in the G-Zone. Now, because Mephisto is free, you can actually just do him when your opponent's damage denying you, and you've managed to at least flip up something else prior. Again, this can flip up a Harri if you're going to this once. If you're going to this a second time and you haven't flipped up her yet, you can flip up Prana, and thus you'll be able to do something. Or you can flip up Mephisto for Mephisto, although I really wouldn't recommend it. Like, Mephisto is surprisingly not bad now. Then, 1 copy of Carnivorous Parallel Megatrick at Fairfield. Fairfield was the GR from the Ruby Labyrinth set, and it's okay. Skill is once per turn, Soul Blast 2, choose a card from your soul and drop zone, shuffle them into the deck, and then you choose a unit from your soul. Does it have to be Magia though? No, you choose any card from your soul, call it to rearguard. It gets plus 10 in the crit, as well as the additional act skill of Soul Blast 2. This unit is unaffected by card effects until end of turn. So, it just allows you to turn any of your rearguards into a super big scary attacker at plus 10 in the crit. And if you're up against decks like Kagero, Gear Chronicle, or something that can interfere with your attacker, you can also make it become unaffected by their G-Guards until end of turn. However, if you do use that Soul Blast 2 skill, you also can't put any triggers on it. So, just a word of caution regarding this, but it's another card with the Magi ability, so you can always flip up for Mephisto to get more value. 1 copy of your GB8, who you will almost never go into, because if your opponent is able to live through all of these, you're probably going to deck out. So, just bear in mind. But the GB8's in here as an option. So, skill is on attack. On Vanguard attack, you choose up to 5 cards in your soul, call in the rearguard, they get power plus 5,000, and all become Abyss Dragons. And then this card gets an additional 10,000 power for every Abyss Dragon you have on rearguard, which is a really funny way of just saying, call a board, they get plus 5, this gets plus 50,000 at most. Yeah. And then, once a breeze, because we do play that game, and Grade 2 Gaming still exists. The one benefit to Sabreeze for this deck is that the new Harri Soul Blast, so even if you have only 2 Counter Blasts to work with, you can still Sea Breeze and make a board. Then 2 copies of the rare G Guardian from the Ruby Labyrinth set. So this card's skill is when it's placed on guard circle, you can use Soul Charge 1, and then you choose a card from your soul and put it on guard circle. So this is one of the cards, or rather, this is the one card that I talked about before that allows you to put your 1 Perfect Guard onto guard circle against guard restrictors such as Phantom Blast or Diablo and such forth. This guy. So you can use this to completely nullify attack by discarding 1, or you can use it in tandem with this. It's still gonna not do anything because you're not calling this card from hand, but it allows you to build a board against your opponent if they're up against Ziegenberg. Or you can just use this to call any 10k shield out and make the plus 36 shield. So it's a nice thing. 1 copy of Cold Hard. This is the Fighter Selection G Guardian. So when it's placed on guard circle, you flip any G Guardian, and then if you have 4 cards with different grades in your soul, so 0, 1, 2, 3, this gets plus 15,000 shield. So yeah. So if you're playing the Pale Moon game, you'll eventually get to this thing. 1 copy of Carnival. Did the For Hire archetype get into this game somehow? Okay, so when it's placed on guard circle, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you choose one of them, put it into the soul, and then put the rest on the bottom of your deck, and if you do this, it gets plus 5,000 shield. So it's your old Fighters Collection G Guardian, but it's good for building up your soul. And then 1 copy of Maja, whose skill is when it's placed on guard circle and you have a Magia Vanguard, it gets a plus 5,000 shield. Then, is it at the end of the battle, or is it, let's see, then at the end of the battle, you choose up to 1 card from your soul, call it to rear guard, and then at the end of the turn, it goes back in your soul. If you don't have a Magia Vanguard, instead you just soul charge, you may soul charge 3. So this is another one of your cards that allows you to do shenanigans on your opponent's turn. Particularly, it allows you to call Flying Periton out, who calls Happiness Collector, which then triggers Misdirection, thus allowing you to draw an additional card and or get some more shield. If you have Spicy Clown in play, then you're also buffing your Vanguard by 6,000 power by itself. So it's a good card. I like it. It's also a G Guardian with the Mog ability, which helps Mephisto out. So that is the deck in a nutshell. I hope it did an adequate job of explaining what it did. I know I didn't go into a great amount of detail of all the nuances of the deck, as I feel like there's other channels out there who have explained the Infinite Harri attack combo better. What I showed you guys before with Periton, Trapezes, and Betty was just an abridged version of it. And there's other just little things that I'm picking up as I play along, because I've only really been playing this deck for a couple weeks now, but I've been enjoying every moment I've had with it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get out of the AL4 set, I believe it's called. The fact that this client gets XL is going to be, again, a huge benefit, because just some of the play lines you can do with some of these strides will change just because you will have that extra circle at plus 10k power. It'll suck that you won't be able to get the use of this guy's stride bonus, for instance, but I feel like after you've gotten your 1XL circle, you can just ride Masked Phantom Harri, and just start doing Pale Moon things. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the fact that this deck's also getting an early game. If it's anything like how they handled Nova Grapplers out of the set, I know some people are upset that Nova Grapplers got the they got the shaft compared to some other clans, but truth be told though, that Riser deck's not looking half bad. And if basically what they do with Pale Moon out of the set is anything like how they're handling the Riser deck, or how perfect Riser is, then it's going to be some fun times. So that's all I got to say for this. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And again, this is the last deck profile I'm doing for the end of G format. It'll be a while yet before I put up anything, as I'm waiting on Vanguard V to start, and particularly the Q4 set to begin. So there won't be any openings for the Royal Paladin or Kagura trial decks. I'll try and see if I can get some games in though, the 2 trial decks in action, because I know people will be picking them up. So we'll see about that. And I guess we're also just kind of waiting on Cardfight Area to update too for the new stuff, because I don't really want to play on Area right now. But yeah, that's all that's all I really say. So hope you guys enjoyed this, and until Vanguard V starts, this is Blue Star 89 jacking out.